Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Garibaldi Red podcast, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Hayes, riding completely solo today to reflect on Nottingham Forest 3-0 defeat to Arsenal at the weekend at the Emirates, which saw Ange Postecoglou's first game in charge, and possibly time to change things up for him after what some would argue a slightly disappointing starting 11 and formation that Ange opted to go for. Some changes throughout the first half and the second, but really Forest had a huge mountain to climb given that the club found themselves 3-0 down pretty early on in the second half and a goal down at half time. I will reflect on that, plus we'll look ahead to the next few weeks for Forest. A busy few weeks for Forest given the Carabao Cup game on Wednesday, and answer your questions. We are live on YouTube, Garibaldi Red, and Facebook, Nottingham Forest News, so do be sure to get your comments into me, and I shall do my best to talk and reflect on whatever points you may have on a very rainy Monday as I sit and record this with the nice new Forest shirt in the background as well if you're watching, which makes the podcast background look a bit more entertaining for once. So yeah, I mean, we look back at Saturday's game probably with disappointment. I think Forest didn't really expect anything going into the game, but myself included, travelling down there, I thought, well, you know, Ange, a new era starts, and I think he'll change it up quite a bit, and maybe we'll see a glimpse of his style of play, and maybe the new manager bounce will help Forest out. But it wasn't really that at all. So it was disappointing. I was shocked to see Morato playing at left back, given Morato's a centre back, given Forest have a full back on the bench in Savono, who I didn't think had a brilliant game when he came on. But look, Forest have signed all these players. So for them to be sat on the bench, particularly when we've got some injuries, I don't really understand that. Savono would cost Forest near enough £12 million from Juventus. He's played in Europe. He's a good player. He's young. He should be hungry to play in the Premier League. So I was shocked to see Ange not start him, given that Forest needed to play a fullback after the news, of course, last week came that we'll be without Olarena for near enough 3 months, which is massively disappointing and massively worrying. So I was, quite shocked to see that Ange didn't change it up too much. But then I thought, well, actually, maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he just wants to kind of keep it solid. He's only been in there for a few days. He doesn't want to disrupt, shall we say, the whole team and the culture and everything like that. But then really from start to finish, Forest found themselves under the cosh, as you will do against a team like Arsenal. I mean, really, if you'd have said, oh, Ange, here's a hard game for the, you know, what's the hardest game you can give him for the first game in charge? It would probably be a Liverpool or an Arsenal. Certainly the two sides that finished in the top two last season, and that's exactly what happened. And Forest really struggled from start to finish. They just couldn't really get hold of the ball in particular the first 20 minutes. I thought there was some spells towards the end of the second half where we looked quite bright. We created bits. I thought Ndoye had quite a good game, probably a few of the shining lights from the game, which I'll get onto, but I thought Dan Ndoye played quite well. He looked strong, and he looks like he's growing into the Premier League, which is good because, I mean, you'd expect, given a Swiss international and the money that Forest paid for Dan Ndoye, that he'd be able to start games and he'd be an Anthony Elanga replacement. So I think he's got to grow into the Premier League, and he has done that the last few games. And I thought the Arsenal game showed that he looked better. He looked more confident on the ball. He looked like he could take players on. You felt more confident with him in the final third. And he played some brilliant passes. He had a chance himself, didn't he? So I thought he was a little bit unlucky. But the first 15 minutes of Forest completely found themselves just under pressure, and it was so much pressure as well, wave after wave. They really, really struggled. They couldn't get it out of their own half. I thought Murillo and Milenkovic shaved us many times, as they always do. Morato looked slow, so we go back to that decision to start him at left back. He looked really slow at left back. I think in modern day football, playing fullbacks, you need fast attacking fullbacks these days. Ange certainly will do with it, the style of play that he'll be aiming for. So Morato was an odd one, and I mean, you saw that when he got brought off. So at kind of the half-time mark, wasn't it? So he had a poor game, and you do feel for him. You know, it's not his natural position. A new manager's come in and gone, right, you're playing left back, and there you go. And he's massively struggled against, I mean, an unbelievable Arsenal side who I thought just absolutely battered Forest from start to finish. I can probably give you one or two chances from both halves that Forest found themselves in. I thought Gyökeres for Arsenal was just unbelievable. He was just running rings around the Forest defence. It gave me some similarities to when we first went up and were in that first season almost under Steve Cooper. And we were going to away games not expecting much and getting absolutely battered. It did remind me of that. A few comments, because I'm live on YouTube and Facebook, Garibaldi Red, Nottingham Forest News, so do be sure to get them in. Of course, if you're listening back, then you won't be able to, but we are live a lot on the podcast, so if you can join us live, it's always good to get your thoughts in. This one says, too much emphasis by people on this result, but just remember the same score there last season under Nuno. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, very good point. And you've got to realise Nuno had been in the job quite a while then. This was Ange's first game. This one from James. Afternoon, Max. Hope you're well. I am, James. Hope you are too. Let's put Saturday behind us, move on. I expect 11 changes on Wednesday, and Big Ange can look at the whole squad and hopefully really kick on. Yeah, completely agree, James. I mean, Wednesday night is a really good opportunity for Ange Postecoglou to look at what he's got and even just try out a few things and try out the style of formation or play that he might want to get across to the players. So I think it's a good opportunity on Wednesday. I think we'll see a lot of additions from the academy. I think there'll be a few debuts potentially, but I also think that Ange could look at this and go, do you know what, I'm not going to change too much. I might rest Elliot Anderson, I might rest Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, key players for Forest that are expected to start every Premier League game and even every European game at the minute. So he might look at that and go, actually, do you know what, I'm gonna put a fairly strong side out, and you might see Ryan Yates, you might see Sangare, you might see Morato playing at centre-back, Bolly. You might see him stick with Matt Sells in goal. I expect Calamendo or Jesus will play up front. I mean, Jesus didn't even make the starting 11 or even the bench on Saturday, which speaks volumes. I don't think he's that fit at the minute. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Calamendo start, who, you know, again, deserves a bit of a chance. He comes on when Forest are 3-0 down, but he's never really going to do anything in those moments. He needs a chance. So Wednesday night's a great opportunity for, I was about to say Nuno then, for Ange to give some of these players a chance and really develop his attacking style, because Forest will be favourites on Wednesday, no disrespect, but Swansea are a championship side. It won't be an easy game by all means, and it's a competition that really Forest could look at and go, well, we've got a good chance really getting to the latter stages. Who have we not beat in terms of coming back up for the first time in 23 years back to the Premier League? We've beat a lot of teams, particularly at the City Ground and even away from home. You look at last season, Chelsea, Liverpool, home to Man City, away at Old Trafford, at United. I mean, anyone can beat those at the minute. They were awful yesterday in that Manchester derby. But Forest have to look at the Carabao Cup and think this is a competition that we can do fairly well in. So we should be aiming to at least get past the first round and use it as a competition to almost practice, to experiment what we need to be doing in the Premier League and Europe, because you don't get much time in those games. You don't get many opportunities just to kind of chill out and almost see. Ange can look at the players and go, right, this is who will start against Swansea. They've got an opportunity to show me what they can do. I'm going to implement this style of football. We've worked on these corners this week in the training ground. And I think that is one thing that he probably was reluctant to do on Saturday. He'd only been there for a few days. He didn't want to disrupt it too much. And he probably thought, look, let's just leave it until Wednesday and make a start then in terms of progress from his perspective. And he was asked in his press conference actually by Paul Taylor, and Ange's reply was kind of, we'll see the change Wednesday. This won't be a week, a long weekly or a monthly thing to get my style of football across. And he said that he would implement it on Wednesday against Swansea, which I expect he'll do. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of sets Forest up on Wednesday night. And I think it's a competition that we can go quite far in. I don't really see any reason why Forest shouldn't be aiming for 3 points. And, I look back at the season that we went up under Steve Cooper, and having a competition on the side in terms of the FA Cup and consistent results and consistent starting 11s and a good atmosphere at the City Ground. Wins breed wins, both in the league and both in cup competitions, and particularly with Forest going into European football. I think we've got to get some kind of form behind us. We've got Real Betis in pretty much a week's time, and a win against Swansea, a win against Burnley would do us the world of good before we all travel to Seville. So that's what I think Ange will be looking at. I think he'll be looking at it as a competition where he can experiment. He'll be looking at it as a competition where Forest can just win football games simply and almost get themselves out a little bit of a rut that they've got into. I look back at to the Brentford game, the first game of the season. Was that a little bit of a just a kind of a lucky win, if you like? And were Brentford really poor? And did Forest get lucky that day? And because really since then the performances have been pretty poor. I mean, maybe you write off the Palace and West Ham games because of what happened with Nuno. Maybe you then write off Arsenal because it's Ange's first game. But how many games can you write off? So Forest need to turn themselves around really and kind of stop this mini rut that they've got themselves into, and at least try and pick up a win, whether that's on against Swansea on Wednesday night, fingers crossed, or if it's away at Burnley come Saturday back in the Premier League. Those are two games that you should be aiming to win, aiming to get 3 points from Burnley under the belt, and then a nice win that takes you into the next round of the Carabao Cup. And then it sets you up nicely for Forest going to Seville and confidence being high and everyone being kind of excited and raring and ready to go for Forest's first European fixture away from the City Ground. I think it is a shame that the first game back in Europe isn't at the City Ground, but I know the fans that will be there will be back in the boys no matter what. So they've got to look at the next two games like that really and really try and turn it round, because it's been a poor few weeks for Forest, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, with everything with Nuno, everything with Edu, everything with Marinakis, all of the, if you like, typical Forest controversy, off the pitch issues that we found ourselves in. So they've got to really, really kind of try and hit the ground running with Ange now and turn it round, because sooner rather than later, I think, people could start to turn on them if they don't pick up results. I think Ange needs to prove a lot of people wrong, and that's not just Forest fans, but that's just general football fans in the footballing world that may be doubting him. So we will see. Phil says, looking forward to Ange's attacking style. I mean, me too. And people joke about it, Phil, but you've got to be looking at Ange, and the reason that Forest have brought him in is because they want a bit of an attacking manager. They weren't too happy with Nuno's style of play. We're in a better position this season than last. We've almost kind of created this culture now where Forest are a European side. We're challenging the top six narrative. We're going to be up there hopefully in the next few seasons. Marinakis is investing all this money into the club. We need a manager that attacks from the front foot, and that's clear from Edu. I think it aligns with Edu's style as well as whatever he is, sporting director of football, head of football operations. So I mean, I think that fingers crossed Ange will really start to get his attacking identity across, and people will doubt his style and think, oh, well, will it not work with the Forest players? And I think it's a fair comment, but what you've got to realise is that we've got some real attacking players that have come through the doors in this window. I mean, I look at Delane Bakwa, who I thought had a really, really good game when he came on against Arsenal. If we're talking about shining lights from that game, I thought he was excellent. So for me, that's a player that would fit nicely into Ange's style. I even look at Calamendo. He needs kind of like a bit of a pressing forward, someone that's got a bit more pace at times than Chris Wood. Well, he's that. I don't think Jorge Jesus really will get into Ange's style of play. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I look at Dominguez. He's a bit of a work horse, isn't he? Obviously, a bit of an injury at the minute, so we'll see about him. But could he feature? Whether Ange will opt to go back to a Ryan Yates kind of player. I mean, Sangari didn't do too much wrong against Arsenal. I think it was just a bad day at the office, really. I think everyone had a pretty poor game. I mean, there was only, I'd say, Delane Bakwa, Endor, Chris Wood looked okay. Other than that, I thought some players looked pretty poor. I mean, I'm talking about players, and I saw it on social media the last few days. Does Ange almost need to give some of these players a bit of a wake-up call? And I kind of look at Morgan Gibbs-White, who was a bit off it on Saturday, and he looked lazy and looked off it. I look at Callum Hudson-Odoi, who I thought the same. I thought that Callum Hudson-Odoi just looked a little bit lost. He was slow to react to things when Wood had that chance, and it hit kind of the ricochet of the bar, and then it came off, and Wood was slow to react to it, but also on the rebound, Callum Hudson-Odoi was slow to react to it, and then Forest could have found themselves back in that game and with a huge opportunity. But so I think Ange has almost got to not ruffle a few feathers, but really almost kind of say, well, look, this is a clean slate now, and the players have got something to prove. I'm not Nuno. I'm someone completely different. So Time to kind of rethink your style, maybe in terms of a player point of view, and really kind of show Ange what they can do. And I think Hudson-Odoi is one of those players that could do a waking up, if I'm totally honest. I think he's been very absent the past few games, and you could even argue Morgan was like that on Saturday as well. I thought Nico Williams had a good game. I thought Savona was okay, but he looked very nervy. Very odd player to be playing at. He doesn't look like a fullback. He looks more like a striker, someone that you would hold the ball up, quite tall, quite lanky. And didn't think he was brilliant. But again, he's come in. It's a bit of a difficult game for your first game in Premier League football to be playing Arsenal, and certainly under a new manager as well, which will naturally disrupt the players. And Ange said it in his post-match interview with Colin Fray. It's been a very disruptive week for the club. So these players will definitely feel it off the pitch, and then that transfers onto the pitch. So they're kind of, in terms of a player point of view, who I kind of was impressed with or wasn't. I think Delane back was done enough to probably warrant even a start. Definitely a start on Wednesday night if Ange's going to play him then, but even a start possibly away at Burnley. And same with Dan N'Doye. I thought he played well. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi could do with a bit of a rest, could do with a bit of a wake-up call, but I can't see it. I think that Nuno will stick with him because we know what Callum can do if he finds that space, if he finds those moments, and gets into, if you like, Callum Hudson-Odoi areas. And Forest never got into those areas really on Saturday at all, and that was the disappointment. There was no attacking threat, there was no creativity, there was no one chance stood in that away end. I think that Forest were ever going to come back into the game, even at 1-0 down, so never mind 3-0 down. But they've got to put it behind them. They've really got to move on and look at the next few games, because there's 4 games until Ange's first game at the City Ground, which is against Sunderland. And let's hope he wins one of them by then, because it could be a difficult reception at the City Ground, and it will be a bit of a nervy one. So, I think you've got to look at Swansea, of course, as a win. They're a Championship side. It's the Carabao Cup. You've got to look at Burnley, a team that's just got promoted. Yes, they held Liverpool for 89, 90 minutes plus yesterday, but there's no reason why Forest can't be beating them and kick-starting something under Ange. Then you've got a trip to Betis and Seville, and nobody knows what will happen there. It's a difficult game, but we've got the players. We've certainly got the squad depth, if you like, to be trying to get a result in Seville. And then you've got a game just a couple of days later, haven't you, at home to Sunderland in the Premier League. So it all comes thick and fast, but that's where Forest have to put Saturday behind them now, really turn it round, really look at kind of starting something under Ange now, and kind of building from hopefully a win on Wednesday night, which gives Ange a good opportunity, as I've mentioned on the podcast, to build and to start different players and to change formations and to see what he can do. So we'll see about that. And then, after these 4 games, you're in October, and fixtures just come thick and fast because of the Europa League schedule. It's only 2 weeks in between Betis and Midtjylland at the City Ground. So, Forest have, I say experiment. We've got time maybe to experiment against Swansea on Wednesday night, but after that, it's certainly get a formation together, Ange, get a starting 11, and really try and get some consistency on the football pitch that will hopefully give Forest some positive results in the next couple of weeks. Right, I think that does us nicely. Just 20 minutes or so reflecting on Arsenal and looking ahead to the next couple of weeks at the football club. We'll be back towards the end of this week for, well, I'll say that. No, we won't. We'll be back on Wednesday for our post-match Swansea show that we'll hopefully do straight after the final whistle, so do tune in then. We'll then preview Burnley during that podcast, and then we will be back this time next week for our episode, hopefully me and a few other people on to discuss Forest, with hopefully a win against Swansea and a win against Burnley, but we shall see. But I think time to change things up for Ange as he suffers his first defeat. He's got to make a few different selections, and I think Wednesday night gives him a great opportunity to do that. Keep the faith, fingers crossed it'll all come good. Thanks for all your comments on YouTube, Garibaldi Red, and Facebook. Nottingham Forest news means a lot, especially when I'm on my own rambling on, just talking into a microphone. So thanks for all your comments and questions. Do stay well, do have a good day and rest of the week, whatever you're up to, and we shall see you on Wednesday after Forest Swansea. Take care, and we'll see you soon. You Reds.